Welcome to the Neidan Podcast. Neidan is the Daoist term for internal alchemy, the contemplative tradition this show is in service of. I am Auge Eidos. I am one of the two voices you will be hearing here, and the second voice belongs to my wife and Shuanxiu partner, my dual cultivation partner in the Daoist tradition, Zhiyuan.
Hello, I am Zhiyuan. I am Chinese American. I am 2 years into formal Daoist practice through the school our Shifu and great teacher founded in Nanjing. The school's curriculum covers 5 disciplines and I have completed coursework in each. 北斗易, the big deeper lineage approach to the I Ching, 八字, 画符, the drawing of Daoist talismans, 风水, and 艾灸 moxibustion, in the form the school combines with 画符. I learn alongside my husband Auge Eidos, whose Hermetic background brings a different vocabulary to the same territory. The disciplines I will share on this show are disciplines I am working with as a student and practitioner. I bring you the freshness of recent encounter rather than the authority of long lineage. I think our viewers will find that useful.
This is the first episode of a new podcast that will run weekly for the foreseeable future, and that exists in part to introduce a forthcoming book of mine titled The Participatory Cosmos, Daoist and Hermetic Witness Against the Dominion Frame. The book is currently in editorial review with two publishers, and the channel will accompany the long publicity period that goes from now through release.
Each episode is built in 3 segments. The first segment is a contemplation, a short canonical reading from one of the source traditions, 8 to 10 minutes, including a brief sitting practice. I will lead this segment most weeks. When the source is Daoist, which is most of the time, I read it because the contemplation is part of my own daily practice, and the reading should come from inside the practice rather than from outside it. The Chinese pronunciation also sits more naturally in my mouth than in my husband's.
The second segment is the scholar's discussion, book related material, current event commentary, or whatever the news cycle has placed in front of us that week, framed through the lens the book defends.
The way we are going to do that segment is a conversation. I will ask the questions, my husband will give the answers. He has spent 26 years inside the Western Hermetic curriculum and has spent the last several years inside the Daoist transmission. I am also receiving, he has the substance. My job in the scholars segment is to ask on behalf of the listener the questions that pull the substance out and make it audible.
The third segment, beginning tonight and recurring every week, is a I Ching reading. We bring a question to the I Ching each week, generate a hexagram by coin flip before recording, and work the reading on air. The segment closes with a brief contemplation for you to leave with. Tonight we begin with chapter 8 of the Tao Te Ching, the chapter in which water is offered as the figure for the highest good. My wife, Zhiyuan, will take us through it. After that, she will turn the conversation to the topic of the evening, which is the controlling image of the book. A river, 2 cities built around it, 2 dams across it, and the question of how to live in a country that has forgotten its river. We close with the I Ching reading and a contemplation.
Settle in. We are going to begin slowly. The text we will sit with tonight is Dao De Jing chapter 8. The Dao De Jing is the foundational text of philosophical Taoism. Tradition attributes it to a figure named Lao Tzu, the Old Master. The text was compiled in some form between the 6th and the 4th centuries before the Common Era. It survives today in 2 principal recensions, the Wang Bi text from the 3rd century of our era and the Ma Wangdui silk manuscripts excavated in 1973 from a Han Dynasty tomb. The chapter divisions are not original. The text was originally a continuous flow of aphoristic verses, and the standard division into 81 chapters is conventional. What we are going to read tonight is the 8th of those conventional units. A note about the version we are using. We are reading from our Shifu's own commentary on the Dao De Jing. His book is titled 道解道德经, a Daoist reading of the Dao De Jing, published in 2016. The text we will read is the chapter as it appears in his book. The English translation is one my husband Auge Eidos and I have prepared together rather than a published Western translation. The commentary that follows is our Shifu's own teaching, translated from the same book. We hold this segment as we hold all our work with him, as students reporting from inside the practice he transmits. A note before we read. Chapter 8 is one of the chapters most quoted out of context in the contemporary West. The line about the highest good being like water has been printed on coffee mugs and yoga studio walls. I want to slow it down. The chapter is not a saying. The chapter is a description of how the cosmos itself behaves. We will sit with it that way. I will read the chapter first in the original Chinese. My husband will then read it in English. After that, we will move through the chapter line by line with our Shifu's commentary. 上善若水，水善利万物而不争。处众人之所恶，故几于道，居善地，心善渊，与善人，言善信，正善治，事善能，动善时。夫唯不争，故无尤。
The highest way of being is like water. Water is skilled at benefiting the 10,000 things and does not contend. It dwells where the multitude finds disagreeable, and so it is near to the way, in dwelling, skilled at the ground. In heart-mind, skilled at depth. In association, skilled at humaneness. In speech, skilled at trust. In governing, skilled at order. In handling affairs, skilled at capability. In movement, skilled at timing. It is precisely because water does not contend that it incurs no fault.
A note on the rendering before we move into the commentary. The character Shan in this chapter is conventionally translated in Western editions as good or virtuous. Our Shifu reads it differently, and his reading is grounded in the classical commentarial tradition. He reads Shan as a loan word for Shan, meaning skilled at or adept at. The chapter is not making moral pronouncements about goodness. The chapter is describing what water is skilled at being, and proposing that the highest human way of being is similarly a skilled adaptive participatory presence in the world. We have followed our Shifu's reading throughout. You will hear it again now, in the commentary itself. The commentary, line by line. I will read the Chinese. My husband will read our Shifu's teaching on that line. 上善若水.
Our Shifu begins. The character Shant here, red Shant, takes the meaning of its loan word, Shant skilled, adept. It is not the meaning of Shant Liang, kind or good-hearted, so the line says, the most exalted person, the highest grade of person, is most skilled at being like water. What then is water like?
水善利万物而不争.
Water is most skilled at doing what is beneficial to all things under heaven. Yet water never contends with any of them for what they have. Look at all things under heaven, plants, animals, human beings. Can you do without water? Water gives, water never claims credit for what it gives.
处众人之所恶.
The character Chu is read Chu in the sense of dwelling. The character is read Wu in the sense of finding disagreeable. The line says, water is willing to dwell in places people find disagreeable. What are those places? People move toward the high places. Water moves toward the low. Water is willing to stay in the mud, the puddle, the drain, the toilet. Places people find foul, because water does not contend with all things. It can go to the places all things refuse to go.
顾己于道.
The character Ji is read Ji, meaning near. This characteristic is what brings water nearest to the Tao. Water has hold of the way's pattern and law. Water can go up, water can go down, water can be exalted, water can be base. Water does not distinguish near from distant, benefit from harm, noble from common. The Tao itself, our Shifu elsewhere reminds us, cannot be made near, cannot be made distant, cannot be made beneficial, cannot be made harmful, cannot be made noble, cannot be made base. Water shares this character. So water is what is nearest to the Tao. The sage Lao Tzu wants us to learn the Tao, but the Tao cannot be seen and cannot be touched. So the sage gives us a reference object. He gives us water because water is nearest to the Tao. All you need to do is learn from water. What then do we learn?
Our Shifu names 7 characteristics of water. We will read them one at a time. 居善地.
In dwelling, skilled at the ground, water is most skilled at choosing its environment. Where the place is square, water becomes square. Where the place is round, water becomes round. The capacity of water to adapt to its environment is very strong. The teaching is to learn from water. Arrived in any environment, we adapt to that environment. There is a saying, when the heart-mind follows the environment, one is merely human. When the environment follows the heart-mind, one is an immortal. An illustration, you arrive in a place that is chaotic, dirty, not to your liking. The cheerful mood you had a moment ago becomes terrible. You begin to complain, to blame, to feel bad, to lose your temper. That is heart-mind following environment. Now consider the reverse. The same situation arises and you are not disturbed. You hold your cheerful mood, that is environment following heart-mind. The capacity to adapt to any environment without being disturbed is the quality of water expressed as Ju Shan Di.
心善渊.
In heart-mind skilled at depth, the thoughts of a person should be skilled at holding this deep water condition. Water is unfathomably deep. A heart-mind that is deep is capable of accomplishing great work.
与善人.
In association, skilled at humanness, in dealings with others, one should be skilled at showing the mutual affection and care, the support and aid that obtains between human beings. Water helps, water gives. When you are thirsty, water relieves you. When your dirty, water washes you. You cannot wash your clothes, your face, or cook a meal without water. This is the quality of benevolent love. In relating to others, be like water, help others, care for others.
言善信.
In speech, skilled at trust. Whether ordinary speech or formal discourse, one should be skilled at being honest, at keeping one's word. Only then will people believe you. If you keep your word, people will come to you when they have something to deal with, and you will be able to help them. People will trust you. The function of water is something we trust only after we have used it. It relieves thirst, it washes our clothes, it cooks our food, it lets us swim. These functions are trustworthy. So if you want others to trust you, the trust must come from what you have actually done.
正善治.
In governing, skilled at order, the character Zheng means not inclined, not slanted. This quality is most useful in matters of governance. Water is impartial. Toward everything, water is the same. If a person is impartial, people will respect that person. If you are not impartial, people will not yield to you. Zheng Shan Zhi is to be applied in governance. Like water, treat all alike.
事善能.
In handling affairs, skilled at capability. In doing a thing, one should be skilled at bringing forth the whole of one's ability. In handling matters, one should give them one's full heart and full strength. Draw out one's greatest capacity. Go at it with all one has. Then the matter is easy to bring to completion. Water is exactly like this. Water never grows tired.
动善时.
In movement, skilled at timing. In acting, one should be skilled at grasping the moment. Watch water, where there is emptiness, water flows. When water has this emptiness, has this space, only then does it move. Water grasps the moment. People should learn from water in handling matters. Do not act on impulse. Do not act recklessly. Prepare well. Wait for the moment. Seize the opportunity.
夫为不争，故无尤。
After laying out these 7 characteristics, the sage adds, it is precisely because water does not contend that it incurs no fault. The character fu is a tonal particle. The character yo is the blame and complaint of others. Only when you have grasped the 7 characteristics above are you able to make this judgment. Ah, so this is how it is. Only in the absence of contention is one without anxiety. You only give, you do not contend. Look at water. Water only gives, water does not contend. And so water is without anxiety.
Our Shifu closes the chapter with this summary. In this chapter, the sage Lao Tzu tells us to learn from water, for water is what is nearest to the Tao. The highest way of being is like water. Sit for a moment. Take one breath in. Take one breath out. Carry the 7 with you this week. Skilled at the ground. Skilled at depths in the heart-mind. Skilled at humaneness in association. Skilled at trust in speech. Skilled at order in governance. Skilled at capability in matters. Skilled at timing in movement. And the line that holds the 7 together, only because water does not contend, does water go without fault. Take one breath in. Take one breath out. The chapter is not telling you to be soft. Water is not passive. Water moves continuously. Water reshapes the country it runs through. Over time, water carves canyons. The country is shaped by what water does without contending. The teaching is not that strength is fake. The teaching is that the strongest thing in the country is the thing that does not need to contend, because the way it moves is in alignment with how the country actually is. We will return to this image throughout the show. The river the book is built around is the river this chapter describes. When you are ready, return to the room. The river that we have just been sitting with is the river that the book is about. The river is what we are going to spend the next 45 minutes discussing. Auge Eidos, the chapter we just sat with, describes water that flows and does not contend. The book you are working on is built around a river. Can you start us with that image? What is the river? What is the country? What is the book actually doing with this picture?
I will give you the image the book is built around in the language of the book itself. This is the literal opening passage. I'm going to read it now. There is a river. It runs through a country that has no map of itself. The water in the river does what water has always done. It falls from the sky, it gathers in the high places, it finds its way down through the rock. It joins itself in the valleys. It runs out through the marshes and into the sea. It evaporates back into the sky. It does this whether anyone is watching it. It does this whether anyone gives it a name. It is the oldest thing the country contains and also the most current. The water in the river right now is the same water that fell from the sky 100,000 years ago, and that will fall from the sky 100,000 years from now. The river is not separate from the country. The river is the country in motion. Around this river, the people who live in the country build cities. The cities are not the river. The cities are the places where the people gather and argue and trade and bury their dead and raise their children. The cities are necessary. People cannot live exactly as the river does. People must build. But the cities they build will live or die by their relation to the river. Two cities concern this book. The first city was built a long time ago by people who were afraid of the river. The river was unpredictable. It sometimes flooded, it sometimes ran dry. It carried away the dead and sometimes did not return them. The people who built this city decided that the river was not the country. They decided that the country was elsewhere, behind the sky in a place the river could not reach. They built the city away from the river. They built temples in the city to honor the place behind the sky. They wrote books that told the people what to do so that they could leave the country and arrive at the place behind the sky when they died. The temples were tall, the books were beautiful, and the people were comforted. The river continued to flow, but the city paid less and less attention to it. After a long time, the city built a dam. The dam was made of stone. The stone was the conviction that the river had to be controlled, that the river was the problem, that the world was fallen, and that the only solution was to leave the world and arrive at the place behind the sky. The dam held the river back. Behind the dam, the river became a lake. The lake was managed. The lake had rules. The temples were built around the lake. The dead were buried near the lake. The lake had become the country, in the only sense the city was willing to recognize a country. The river was forgotten. The river ran on. After a long time, the dam cracked. By the 18th century, men in coats and hats were standing at the cracks and explaining that the dam was a regrettable artifact of a less informed time. They proposed that a new and stronger dam be built. The new dam would not need the place behind the sky. It would be a dam designed by reason alone. The new dam was built. It was a magnificent piece of engineering. It used the same stone as the old dam, the same conviction that the river had to be controlled. It used different mortar. It had laboratories where men in white coats took measurements of the lake. It had universities, it had hospitals, it had factories, it improved many things. It also held back the river. The new dam is now also cracking. We are living inside the cracks. That is the image. The book is about the cracks. The book is about the dam. The book is about the river. The dam was built to control.
So the argument is that the two dams are the same dam. They are not just two episodes of the same problem. They are the same dam.
They are the same dam, made of the same stone, built by the same fear. They are both failing for the same reason. The argument is also that the river was never asking to be dammed. And the argument is also that there are people who never built a dam, people who built two dams and tried to escape from both, and people who learned long ago how to live with rivers. The book is about all of these.
Let us start with the first dam. When you say the first dam, what do you mean? What is the metaphysics? Where does it come from? How did it get to us?
The first dam is the metaphysics that came to the West through the long Christian tradition and that still informs Christianity's two cousin religions, Judaism and Islam. The book gives this metaphysics a single name. The book calls it the Abrahamic Dominator Complex. The complex is one metaphysics that the three traditions inherited from a common substrate and developed in three different directions. The dominator part of the name is not decorative. It is naming the structural feature, command from above, control by force, the cosmos demoted to property. The substrate is what concerns us tonight. The substrate emerged in the late Bronze Age in the Levant, between roughly 1500 and 600 years before the Common Era. It emerged in conditions of substantial climatic instability, urban collapse, population pressure, and inter-civilizational warfare. Mark S. Smith, in The Early History of God, has assembled the textual and the archaeological evidence with the care that the question deserves.
And what does Smith actually say? The Sunday school version is that monotheism walked into history fully formed. Smith disagrees.
Smith disagrees. The story Smith tells is not the story Sunday school tells. The God of the Hebrew Bible did not walk fully formed into a vacant lot. He emerged out of a populated polytheistic religious landscape that included El, Baal, Asherah, Anat, and many others. His emergence as the sole deity of Israel was the work of centuries. Asherah, in particular, was for long stretches of Israel's pre-exilic religious life venerated alongside Yahweh as his consort. The displacement of Asherah, the suppression of the sun cult that was at one point part of Yahwistic worship, the gradual absorption of Baal's storm god functions into Yahweh, and the erasure of the goddesses are the actual historical content of the formation of biblical monotheism. Smith's evidence is meticulous. The conclusions are not contested in serious scholarship.
And the substrate that comes out of that displacement has a particular structure. Walk us through it.
The deity is one. The polytheism is suppressed. The deity is masculine. The consort is suppressed. The deity is sky-located. The chthonic deities of the earth and the underworld are demonized. The deity is transcendent. The cosmos is no longer the deity's body, the deity's manifestation, or the deity's family. The cosmos is the deity's product, an item the deity made and stands above. The deity issues commands. Revelation is verbal, codified in books, regulated by clerics. The deity demands obedience. The practitioner's job is to align with the deity's commands and accept correction for misalignment. The deity rewards obedience and punishes disobedience after death. The consequences of the practitioner's life are not in the practitioner's lived continuity with the cosmos. The consequences are in a posthumous accounting. That is the substrate. That is the first dam.
I want to mark something. The Daoist tradition I'm studying now, the one our Shifu transmits, emerged in roughly the same window, the 6th to the 4th centuries before the Common Era. Same Bronze Age starting point, different civilization, and the metaphysics that came out of it on the Chinese side of the planet is structurally opposite. Is that an accident of history?
It is not an accident. The Bronze Age produced many options. The Taoist option is one. The Vedic tradition produced another. The Greek metaphysical tradition produced a fourth. The Egyptian and Mesopotamian metaphysics that the Abrahamic substrate emerged out of were a fifth and a sixth. The Abrahamic substrate is one option among many. It has, for historically contingent reasons, become the metaphysics of the West, but it was never the only option. It is not the necessary structure of human religious consciousness. Other Bronze Age civilizations took the same starting material and produced metaphysics that did not refuse the cosmos. The Taoist case proves this directly.
And then Augustine. How does the substrate get carried into Latin Christianity and into the West we are living in now?
Augustine, in the late 4th and early 5th centuries of our era, did the philosophical work that made the Western substrate compatible with Greco-Roman intellectual culture. The dualisms that have plagued the West since Augustine are these: soul against body, spirit against flesh, mind against matter, reason against passion, civilization against wilderness, man against woman. These dualisms were partly Augustinian formulations of the substrate. They were partly Augustinian inheritances from his own 9-year Manichaean phase. They were partly Augustinian translations of the substrate into Greek philosophical vocabulary. The structure that emerged from Augustine's work has organized Latin Christian theology for 1600 years. The Reformation of the 16th century did not break with this structure. It intensified the structure by removing the institutional mediation of the Church and placing the practitioner alone before the regulating book. The 17th century scientific revolution did not break with this structure either. It removed the personal God who had issued the commands, but it kept the metaphysical machinery. The cosmos as mechanism, the practitioner as detached observer, the world as field of correction. That is the transition. That is where the second dam comes from.
The second dam is scientism. And before you go further, I want to make sure the audience hears the distinction. The book is depending on science and scientism. The book is not against science. So what is the difference and why does the book treat them as different things?
This is the distinction that, if you take only one thing away from this episode, is the thing to take. The book makes this distinction repeatedly because the book's whole argument depends on it. Science is a method. Science is patient and detailed attention to the world. Science is one of the better things the West has done. The working physicist, the working biologist, the working chemist, the working epidemiologist, when she is doing the work of her discipline, is doing one of the more valuable kinds of human attention available. The book is not against this work. I am not against this work. Scientism is something else. Scientism is the dogmatic claim that the empirical natural sciences are the only valid avenue to truth, that all other modes of knowing, contemplative, aesthetic, ritual, ethical, traditional, are at best approximations and at worst noise, that the proper response to any phenomenon is its reduction to measurable parts. Scientism is not a finding of any science. No experiment has produced it. No paper has demonstrated it. It is a metaphysical commitment that precedes the work of any specific science. It has, since the 17th century, presented itself as if it were the work of science. The presentation is dishonest. The presentation is the move that has allowed the second dam to be built without anyone noticing it was a dam.
And Mary Midgley is the figure the book leans on for this.
Mary Midgley named this. Midgley was a British moral philosopher who lived from 1919 to 2018 and who, across 40 years of work, kept telling the Academy that scientism was a metaphysics, not a finding. Her book, Science as Salvation, published in 1992, is the single most important diagnostic source the book draws on. She called scientism a myth. She did not mean a falsehood. She meant a myth in the technical sense, a structuring story that organizes a culture's relation to reality. The myth of scientism is the myth that reality is exhausted by what the natural sciences can measure. The myth is held with religious intensity by many who have explicitly renounced religion. The myth survives counter-evidence. The myth excommunicates dissenters. Midgley pointed out correctly that these are the operating features of a religious system, not an empirical inquiry.
Ian McGilchrist is the other figure you draw on heavily here. He approaches scientism from neuroscience, not philosophy. How does his argument fit alongside Midgley?
McGilchrist comes at it from the structure of the human brain. His book, The Master and His Emissary, published in 2009, is the most patient and detailed engagement with hemispheric specialization in Western intellectual history that we have. McGilchrist's argument is that the two hemispheres of the brain attend to the world in different ways, that both modes of attention are necessary, that Western culture since the late Renaissance has progressively allowed the left hemisphere mode to dominate. The left hemisphere mode is the one that takes things out of context, divides them into parts, manipulates the parts, and reports what it finds in propositional form. The right hemisphere mode is the one that sees things in their living context, holds the whole, attends to the new, and recognizes meaning before reducing meaning to information. McGilchrist's image, which gives his book its title, comes from a Nietzsche passage. There was once a wise spiritual master who ruled a small but prosperous country. The country was too large for him to administer personally, so he trained emissaries to carry his work to its distant parts. One emissary was the cleverest and most ambitious. Over time, the emissary began to believe he was the master. He used the master's authority for his own ends. He came to see the master's restraint as weakness, his patience as obsolescence. Eventually, the emissary deposed the master. He ran the country himself. The country fell into ruin. The emissary in McGilchrist's reading is the left hemisphere. The master is the right hemisphere. The emissary is necessary. The country cannot be administered by the master alone. But the emissary in Western culture since the late Renaissance has progressively come to believe that he is the master. The emissary's metaphysics is scientism. The emissary's pronouncements appear in the popular science journals, the policy briefings, and the consciousness studies textbooks. The emissary's confidence is unshakable. The country is in ruin, and the emissary is, in his own terms, doing fine. The line in the book is, "The myth of scientism is the brain talking to itself with one of its eyes closed, and announcing that the closed eye does not exist."
Hold that line for a moment, because it is going to come back. There is also a Daoist parallel that I think helps in the Zhuangzi. There is a figure named Huandun, primordial chaos. Two friends decide to do Huandun a favor by drilling the 7 openings into him that ordinary humans have: eyes, nostrils, mouth, ears. They drill one a day for 7 days. On the 7th day, Huandun dies. Is that the same shape McGilchrist is naming?
It is the same shape. The emissary is doing what those two friends did. The emissary is helping the country by drilling openings into the master that the master did not need. The country dies. The emissary wonders why.
Now the central claim. The 2 dams are made of the same stone. This is going to be the most counterintuitive part of the argument for a lot of listeners. The Christian theologian and the secularist look like opposites. They have been at each other for 2 centuries. How are they the same?
They are the same at the level of metaphysics. They are not the same at the level of policy or culture. The war between the religious right and the secular liberal is real. People die in that war. But both sides are working with the same metaphysics. The Christian theologian says, "The world is fallen, and the solution is the place behind the sky. The cosmos cannot be redeemed where it is. The cosmos has to be left for somewhere else. The cosmos is the field of trial. The cosmos is what you escape from. The cosmos is the prison of the soul." The secularist says, "The world is mechanism, and the solution is the laboratory. The cosmos cannot be left as it is. The cosmos has to be optimized. The cosmos is the field of engineering. The cosmos is what you fix. The cosmos is the raw material of the project." Both have agreed that the cosmos is the problem. They disagree only about what the solution is. The theologian says the solution is the place behind the sky. The secularist says the solution is the laboratory. Neither side has proposed that the cosmos might not be the problem. That is the same metaphysics in 2 different costumes. That is what it means for the 2 dams to be made of the same stone. The first dam was built by people afraid of the river who decided the river was not the country. The second dam was built by people afraid of the river who decided the river was a mechanism the country could engineer. Both groups began with the same refusal of the river.
You also flag a third costume, the simulation hypothesis, briefly. Why is that the same metaphysics again?
The simulation hypothesis is the third costume. Nick Bostrom and David Chalmers have done the philosophical work to make it respectable. The proposal is that the cosmos is a computation, that we are inside it, and that there is a programmer outside it who set it running. Notice the structure. There is a transcendent intelligence outside the cosmos. The intelligence designed the cosmos. The cosmos is the intelligence's product, not the intelligence itself. The practitioner is inside a designed environment that is not the practitioner's home. The practitioner's relation to the source is the relation of artifact to maker. That is the same metaphysics in the third costume. The watchmaker redescribed in code. The cosmic programmer is the same figure as the cosmic lord and as the cosmic engineer. 3 costumes, 1 stone. The current public conversation, the one in which the religious and the secular are at war, is theatrical. It is not unreal. People die in the theater. But the protagonists are wearing 2 different costumes from the same costume shop. The play is the same play. The river underneath the stage is the river the play has agreed not to discuss.
Now to the alternative, the river itself. The Participatory Cosmos. The book argues that the Daoist tradition has been making this proposal for 2,500 years, and that the Hermetic tradition has been making it for 2000. What is the proposal? Lay out the structural features.
There are 5 features. I will lay them out in order. The first feature, the source is not separate from the manifest cosmos. The Tao is the source from which the 10,000 things arise, but the Tao is also present in the 10,000 things. The Tao is not behind the sky. The Hermetic one is the source of all that exists, but the cosmos is not the one's product set apart from the one. The cosmos is the one's manifestation. The technical word the Hermetic tradition uses for this is theophany. The cosmos is theophany. The cosmos is what the source looks like when the source is shining. There is no place behind the sky that is more real than the place in front of you. The place in front of you is the source's actual condition.
In Chinese homes that keep folk practice, the altar is doing something like this at the scale of the household. Is that the same metaphysics?
That is the same thing. The altar is the metaphysics at the scale of the household. The fact that the altar is in the home and not behind the sky is the metaphysics in physical form. The folk practice does not require theory. The folk practice has been carrying the theory by living it. The second feature, the cosmos is alive. It is not a machine, it is not a product, it is not a stage on which a moral drama is being performed. It is a continuous unfolding of inherent intelligence in motion. Tao Te Ching chapter 25 states this directly. Heaven follows the Tao. The Tao follows what is so of itself. That last phrase in Chinese is ziran. It means suchness, naturalness, what arises of its own accord. The Hermetic Tabula Smaragdina, which we know as the Emerald Tablet, states the same idea as the principle of correspondence, as above, so below. The above and the below are not separate domains. They are the same intelligence at different scales of manifestation.
自然 is also the principle behind every 八字 reading I have watched our Shifu do. When he reads a chart, he is looking at the configuration of someone's 自然 in this hour, this season, this year. Is the book treating 八字 as part of this metaphysics, or is that a separate practice?
Bazi is part of this metaphysics. Bazi is the diagnostic instrument that reads Ziran in the case of one human being. The reading is not fortune telling in the dominion sense. The reading is the cosmos's particular configuration in this person, in this hour, in this season, in this year. The work after the reading is the practitioner's work of coming into alignment with the configuration, that is, participatory metaphysics in clinical form. The third feature, the human is a participant in the cosmic intelligence, not an external observer of it. The Taoist sage is the human who has come into alignment with the way things are. The alignment is not a posture or an opinion. The alignment is a structural condition reached through long cultivation. The Hermetic adept is the human who has come into recognition of the divine within and has thereby become the bond between the cosmic intelligence and the material order. The human is one node in the cosmic intelligence's network. The human is not standing outside the field with a clipboard. The human is in the field. The human is what the field is doing in this particular location. I'm thinking of 2 specific teachers when I say this. Our Shifu, Lo Shifu, who carries the lineage my wife, Zhiyuan, and I are studying inside, and our teacher, Gaofan Xianshen. Both of them have done the work. They are not figures from a book, they are the people we sit with. When the book speaks of the Taoist sage and the Hermetic adept, these are the kinds of practitioners the book has in mind. The fourth feature, knowledge in the highest sense is participation, not propositional possession. The Taoist tradition trains the practitioner in Wu Wei. Wu Wei means action that is in alignment with the way of things, and that therefore does not generate friction with the way. The Hermetic tradition trains the practitioner in Gnosis. Gnosis means transformative knowing. It is the recognition of one's own participation in the divine, achieved by the practitioner's actual transformation, not by reading the right books. Both traditions reject the move that confines knowledge to the propositional content of regulating texts. Knowledge is what happens when the practitioner has done the work. The work is not optional. The work is not transmissible by lecture.
无为 is the term I see most often misunderstood in the West. People hear it as laziness. Is that the right reading?
It is not the right reading. Wu Wei is not laziness. Wu Wei is not doing nothing. Wu Wei is the action that does not contend with the way of things. A skilled cook does Wu Wei when she lets the heat do its work without forcing the rice. A skilled gardener does Wu Wei when she plants according to the season instead of arguing with the season. The action is real. The action is also in alignment. The practitioner who is doing Wu Wei is not less active. The practitioner who is doing Wu Wei is more effective. The fifth feature: the body is not a prison and not a machine. The body is the cauldron. The Daoist Neidan tradition treats the body as a populated landscape, the inner microcosm of the outer macrocosm, with its three dantan and its energetic circuits and its small civilization of organ spirits and channels. The Hermetic and alchemical Western traditions treat the body as the prima materia of the inner work, the substance that is dissolved and reconstituted in the production of the lapis. Both traditions reject both the Abrahamic move that treats the body as the seat of corruption and the scientific move that treats the body as a machine to be optimized. The body is the practitioner's actual situation. The body is honored. The body is also work.
In what I have learned about feng shui so far, the room seems to be treated the same way. The room is a body too. The body is also a room. Are they the same teaching at different scales?
They are the same teaching at different scales. The qi that moves through the body and the qi that moves through the room are not different in kind. The Dominion Frames Hospital treats the body as an inventory of organs that fail one at a time. The folk practice you carry treats the body as the place where the seasons are received, where the food is welcomed, where the sleep is paid as a debt to the day. They are different sciences. They are not the same science, with one being more advanced.
5 features: source not separate, cosmos alive, human as participant, knowledge as participation, body as cauldron, that is the river.
That is the river.
Before we close, I want the listener to know who is making this argument and from what standing. Walk us through that briefly.
I came into the Western Hermetic curriculum 26 years ago in California through the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. I attained the Adeptus minor grade. I taught the curriculum. I have studied many other magical traditions, including chaos magic. I came to Daoist material independently in the early 2000s and recognized across the years that followed the structural similarities between the Daoist and the Hermetic configurations. In 2025, I was formally received into a Daoist sect through my wife Zhiyuan's connection to our Shifu. My wife and I are now both his students. We live and study under him in person. I am not a comparative religion scholar surveying these traditions from the outside. I am a practitioner reporting from the inside. The book is the report from inside the practice.
And what should listeners expect from the channel as it runs over the coming year?
One episode a week, the structure you have heard tonight. A short Taoist or Hermetic contemplation in the first 10 minutes. A discussion in the second segment, running about 45 minutes on a topic that is either book related or current event related. A I Ching reading and closing contemplation in the third. The book moves through the diagnosis in 9 parts, and we will move across that territory at a pace of about one major theme per episode in no particular order, choosing what is most live in the news cycle at the time of recording. A note on tone before we go any further. The book takes a polemical stance on certain figures and movements the Dominion frame has produced, and the show will carry that polemic when it is the right moment to carry it. I want to be clear about how this show will engage those figures because I do not want to come out of episode 1 with weapons drawn at people who are just living their lives. The approach is the approach of water. Water does not chase the rocks. Water responds to the rocks that are already in the riverbed. When a figure or a movement is in the news cycle, when they are taking up public attention, when they are placing the dominion frame in front of the audience, this show also serves, we will respond. The response will be precise, it will not be soft, but it will be reactive, not predatory. We are not hunting individuals, we are reading the terrain the dominion frame has built and naming what we see when the figure is already standing in the public square.
And there will be episodes where the conversation runs the other way, where I am leading the topic, and my husband is asking the questions. Episodes on each of the disciplines I have trained in. Episodes on 八字 in everyday life. Episodes on feng shui at the scale of the actual house, the actual room, the actual altar. How to arrange the kitchen so the qi can move. How to read the front door of a home. Episodes on 北斗易, the lineage approach to the I Ching our school transmits. Episodes on 画符, the drawing of Daoist talismans with the brush, the materials, the ritual context, what a fu actually does and does not do. Episodes on 艾灸 in our school's specific form, the moxie bastion that is combined with 画符. Episodes on harmonious living in a household, trying to live in 自然, inside a city built on the dominion frame. Those episodes will be quieter than tonight's. My husband and I will work through a hexagram or a chart together as part of our own practice, and you will hear two students working it out rather than a master pronouncing. Bring us back to the river. Close us on the image we began with.
There is a river. It runs through a country that has no map of itself. The water in the river does what water has always done. It falls from the sky. It gathers in the high places. It finds its way down through the rock. It joins itself in the valleys. It runs out through the marshes and into the sea. It evaporates back into the sky. It does this whether anyone is watching it. It does this whether anyone gives it a name. The country has been through 2 long centuries of dam building. The first dam was built a long time ago by people who were afraid of the river and decided the river was not the country. The second dam was built more recently by people who decided the river was a mechanism the country could engineer. Both dams are made of the same stone. Both dams are built across the same river. Both dams are now cracking. We are living inside the cracks. The book that this channel is publicizing is not a recommendation that the dams be torn down by force. The book is a recommendation that the country remember that the river never stopped. The river is still running. It is running under the first dam, and it is running under the second dam, and it is running through the cracks in both. The traditions that learned long ago how to live with rivers without trying to dam them, the Daoist tradition, the Hermetic tradition, the indigenous traditions of every continent are still here. They have been carrying the river through the long dam building. They are available to the country if the country wants to remember.
The dam is failing. The river is flowing.
The dam is failing. The river is flowing. The traditions that learned how to live with rivers are still here. The book is an invitation to remember what those traditions know. There is one more segment in this episode, and it will be a recurring segment for the rest of this channel's run. The weekly I Ching reading. The I Ching is the Book of Changes, the oldest book in the Chinese contemplative canon, in continuous practice for roughly 3,000 years. Each week we consult the I Ching for general guidance. We do not ask a specific question. We let the oracle speak about whatever is most lived for, whoever is listening. Each listener carries a different situation into the show, and the reading is open to all of those situations at once. We generate the hexagram by coin flip before the session in the traditional method, and we work the reading on the air. The reading closes with a brief contemplation for you to leave with. Zhiyuan, what did the coins say this week?
The cast came up clean. 3 coins, 6 tosses in the traditional way. The primary hexagram is number 15, Tian, modesty. The trigrams are Gen, mountain below, and Kun, earth above. A mountain whose peak is below the surface of the field. The third line is the changing line, which means it is the only young line in the hexagram, and it is moving. When line 3 transforms, the hexagram becomes number 2, Kun, the receptive pure earth. 6 yin lines.
This is an unusual cast, and I want to mark that before we go further. Of all 64 hexagrams in the I Ching, here is the only one in which every single line is auspicious. Every line. The classical commentary treats it as the mode of being that meets every situation well, and the hexagram the cosmos has sent us this week, when we asked nothing in particular, and let the oracle speak across whatever the listeners are carrying, is modesty. That is the first thing the oracle is telling us. Whatever each of you is carrying tonight, the configuration that meets it well is modesty. Wilhelm describes the hexagram this way. The mountain is the youngest son of the creative, the representative of heaven on earth. It dispenses the blessings of heaven, the clouds and rain that gather around its summit, and thereafter shines forth radiant with heavenly light. This shows what modesty is and how it functions in great and strong men. The earth stands above. Lowliness is a quality of the earth. This is the very reason why it appears in this hexagram as exalted by being placed above the mountain. This shows how modesty functions in lowly, simple people. They are lifted up by it. The Wilhelm Baines judgment text reads, "Modesty creates success. The superior man carries things through." The Wilhelm Baines image text is the heart of the cast, and I want to read it slowly. Within the earth, a mountain. The image of modesty. Thus, the superior man reduces that which is too much and augments that which is too little. He weighs things and makes them equal. Picture this: a mountain whose peak is below the level of the surrounding field. The greatness of the mountain is real. The mass of the mountain is real. But the field around it does not have to know. The mountain does its work below the line of the surface. That is the figure the hexagram is offering for what modesty looks like.
I want to sit with that image for a moment, because the dominion frame is loud. There is enormous pressure on the listener, on all of us to declare, to turn whatever inner work we are doing into a public position, to make our cultivation a triumph against something, a stand against something else, a credential, a brand, a posture. Every declaration is a dominion frame trick. They are all about positioning oneself in a public conversation. The image of the mountain inside the earth is asking something different. The work is real. The earth around it does not have to know.
The line that is changing is line 3. In here, line 3 is the only yang line. It is the active line, the doing line, the line of merit and accomplishment. Wilhelm Baines renders the line text this way. 9 in the third place means a superior man of modesty and merit carries things to conclusion, good fortune. The Chinese underneath that translation reads, Lao Qian Junzi You Zhongji. Lao Qian means laboring in modesty. Junzi is the practitioner, the person of the work. You Zhong means has an end, carries through. Di is auspicious, laboring in modesty. The practitioner carries through, auspicious. Wilhelm comments on this line that it is the center of the hexagram where the secret is disclosed. A distinguished name is readily earned by great achievements. If a man allows himself to be dazzled by fame, he will soon be criticized and difficulties will arise. If, on the contrary, he remains modest despite his merit, he makes himself beloved and wins the support necessary for carrying his work through to the end. Notice what the line is not saying. The line is not saying the work is easy. Lal means labor, toil, the actual effort. The line is saying the doing is real and difficult, and the practitioner continues the work without preening on it. The work does not have to look heroic to be the work. the work just continues, and the work, the line says, has an end. It is carried through. That is the auspicious thing.
When the line changes, it goes from yang to yin. The active line of doing yields. The hexagram becomes pure kun, 6 yin lines. What is the oracle saying happens after the active modest work has been carried through?
Wilhelm Baines gives the judgment of Quan this way. The receptive brings about sublime success, furthering through the perseverance of a mare. If the superior man undertakes something and tries to lead, he goes astray, but if he follows, he finds guidance. It is favorable to find friends in the west and south, to forego friends in the east and north. Quiet perseverance brings good fortune. And the image, the earth's condition is receptive devotion. Thus, the superior man who has breadth of character carries the outer world. The oracle is saying that the active, modest work, when it has been carried through, rests into Quin. Quin is the hexagram of the mare on the yielding earth. The text speaks of the mare's perseverance, the steady carrying of what is given. The earth's mode is to receive, to support, to hold what is placed on it. The cast as a whole from here to Quin by way of line 3 is precise about a configuration most listeners can feel inside their own week. Wherever there is real work in your life right now, work that is hard, work that is real, work that the Dominion frame would have you either advertise or apologize for. The cast is saying do that work without performing it. Do it modestly. Stay with it. The work has an end. It is carried through, and when the doing has been carried through, the place it lands is not another doing. The place it lands is yielding, the mare's perseverance, the earth's carrying.
What does that look like applied? If a listener is sitting with this reading and asking how it lands in their own life, how would you offer it?
I would offer it as 4 images held together: the mountain inside the earth, the labor that does not preen, the line that has an end, the mare on the yielding road. The mountain inside the earth, for whatever in you is real and load-bearing and does not need to be advertised to be real. The Dominion frame's loudest voice in this culture is the voice that says, if it is not advertised, it does not exist. The hexagram says the opposite. The mountain inside the earth is real. The earth around it does not have to know. The labor that does not preen for the work itself. Whatever you're doing this week that is hard, whatever you are continuing to do that is unrewarded by the Dominion frame's metrics. The line says, Lao Tzu, laboring in modesty. The doing is the doing. The doing does not need to be photographed. The line that has an end, for the comfort that the work is not endless. Yojon has an end. The line says the modest practitioner carries through. There is a completion. The work is not infinite. It is bounded. It is finishable. The mare on the yielding road for what comes after. When the active doing has been carried through, the configuration moves to Quin. The mare carries, the mare endures, the mare does not race. The mare stays on the road for as long as the road asks. That is what the rest of life looks like after the work has been done modestly. Not triumph, not exhaustion. The continued carrying of what was always going to be carried.
The reading is what the reading is. The work is real. The work does not have to be performed. The mountain is inside the earth. The mare carries. We invite you to sit with these images for the rest of the week.
Zhiyuan, take us into the closing contemplation.
A short contemplation to live with. We will sit briefly with the image the hexagram has given us. Take one breath in. Take one breath out. There is a mountain inside the earth. The mountain is real. It is a mountain. The earth around it does not have to know that it is a mountain. The mountain does its work below the line of the field. The greatness of it is not advertised. The work of it is not performed. It is just a mountain doing what mountains do where it happens to be. Take one breath in. Take one breath out. Whatever you are working with this week, whatever is hard for you right now, whatever you have been continuing to do that nobody is applauding, hold the image of the mountain inside the earth. The work is real. The work does not have to look like work. The work does not have to be defended. The work does not have to be confessed. The work just continues modestly where it is. Take one breath in. Take one breath out. The image of the mare comes next. The mare on the yielding earth. The mare is not running a race. The mare is carrying. The mare endures. The mare stays with the work for as long as the work asks. Take one breath in. Take one breath out. Carry these two images with you this week. The mountain inside the earth. The mare carrying without contending. The work continues. The work does not have to be shown off. That is the reading. Next week, what will we be sitting with, and what will we be talking about?
Next week is a longer episode in 5 segments. We open with a short Hermetic contemplation, the opening of the Corpus Hermeticum, Treatise 1, the Poimandres. Then my wife, Zhiyuan, will lead a segment on Lisat, the start of summer in the Chinese solar calendar, drawn directly from our Shifu School's published series on the 24 solar terms. After that, I read 3 things Mark Andreessen has placed in the public square in recent days, because the show responds when the Dominion frame is speaking, and this week the Dominion frame has been speaking loudly through one of its most visible voices. After the Andreessen reading, my wife, Zhiyuan, takes us to the counterbalance, our great teacher, Golfan Senshin's own story, which is the lineage's quiet answer to the configuration Andreessen embodies. And we close, as always, with the weekly I Ching reading. Starting next week, the reading is in a new format, the format documented in Golfan Senshin's own 384 Yao I Ching meditation manual, Bujiet Tremidi. The Wilhelm Baines coin cast format we used in this episode steps aside. The cast continues with 3 coins and 6 tosses, but the chapter we read after the cast comes from her book.
I am Zhiyuan.
I am Auge Eidos.
This has been the Neidan Podcast.
The river runs